Hello there and welcome back to my channel. So I'm gonna be listing down the times down below so that you can, I don't know why you would, but you can skip ahead to the different topics that you're more interested in, although I hope that you watch it all. I don't know why you'd want to skip ahead, but if you do, I got it. We'll start off with Adam and Eve. Now, Adam and Eve, I think everyone knows that they were like the first people, and so they're also the first couple. And the highlight of this story for me is that Adam was working. He was so dedicated to just spending time with God, to deepening his relationship with God, and working the responsibility that God had given him, that he didn't even think about having someone with him. But then God made Eve, and I remember at a youth reload preaching at our church, and basically the pastor said that it was so cool how when Eve was made, Adam just knew that she was different. Like, he knew she didn't look like all the other animals that were around him. Like, she bore the image of God, and that is a very important part of relationship building. Right, thank you. Not just to a future partner, spouse, or soulmate, but to friends and family, like bearing the image of God. So that's the first highlight. Second highlight is in Jacob and Rachel's story. So if you're not familiar, Jacob, he was the younger son between the two twins, Esau and Jacob, and basically he was told by his mom, I feel like these animals want to join in or something. So basically Jacob was told like to go to this place, to his uncle's place, and he saw Rachel, and he was like, so he decided, okay, I'm gonna work for 7 years so that I can marry Rachel. But after the 7 years, it turns out that he was tricked and he ended up with Leah. And to most people, being rejected like that or tricked like that would cause you to be like, what's the big deal? What's going on? I'm probably just gonna leave, you know, have a good life. But Jacob did not. He knew that his work was more than just work for his heart. It was work for God's purpose. So after those 7 years and being married to Leah, he worked another 7 years to be with Rachel. He knew that she was a big part of the purpose that God had for his life, and so he did not lose sight of that. For 14 years he worked to get married and to live life with Rachel, and both Leah and Rachel played a big part in establishing Israel, because Jacob's name was changed to Israel later on. But basically what the world is, what Israel is right now, is also greatly influenced by the choices made by these three people, from Jacob to Leah and Rachel. So that's the highlight there, that the work and the waiting in God's purpose is worth it and not wasted. Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have Ruth and Boaz. So this is like one of the more famous I'm afraid there are so many sounds right now, I'm sorry. But basically Ruth and Boaz's story is one of the more famous love stories in the Bible, where Ruth had already lost her husband. She traveled with her mother-in-law, who was much older, and they went back home to try to find a new life. But she ended up being the one who had to work, and she was a Moabite. She was not part of God's people. But when she started working, God's favor was upon her because of the faith that she chose to grow in. And so she got the attention of Boaz. He provided for her. They weren't even together yet. Like, he just saw her and he was like, who is this woman? Okay, be kind to her, give her more than enough food to take home to Naomi. Yeah, exactly. And so basically he provided for her. And then when he found out everything that needed to be done to help Naomi and Ruth, he protected her. He followed a process to make sure that her purity, her integrity, and the family name of Naomi would be preserved and would be blessed. And so because of that process that they both went through, where they weren't rushing to find love, they weren't rushing to follow their emotions, instead they followed where God led, it led them to being a blessing. Like Ruth is the great grandmother of David, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just amazing how faith and trusting God in the process can lead to such amazing things. A lot of times what we miss out is that we are so focused on the perception that we want, the perception that we have of a person, that we forget who they are as a person. I don't know if you've ever heard, but growing up with friends, getting into little things, we would be like, or I think if you guys have watched, I did not watch it, but I've heard of the saying in, what is the show? Oh my gosh, I forgot it. Outer Banks, where she was like, you don't love me, Topper, you just love the idea of me. And I think that's very relatable in terms of real life, because sometimes we are just so focused on the idea of someone that we don't focus on valuing, treasuring, and growing who we are as people. Because I don't know about you guys, but growing up in a Christian home, we're used to having standards, to having qualities that you want your future partner to have, to follow these rules, to follow this process that some people I know, they're not in relationships yet, but we're just so focused on the ideas of what we want the person to be that we forget he's a person. He's not some made up image in your mind. He's going to be a person that's going to have flaws, that's going to be imperfect, that you're going to have to grow with. You can have standards to follow, but don't limit or let a relationship revolve around the standards alone, because sometimes I think that we box God in, God, I want him to be like this. I want him to be good at math. I want him to cook. I want him to be taller than me. I don't know the other qualities that most girls have, but the idea of just having qualities that you're waiting for the perfect person to fit all those qualities. Well, what if God is not gonna fit in all those qualities, because he wants to fit you with the perfect person for you, who's gonna be way better than you ever thought of. But he's not gonna be boxed into your idea of him. He's gonna be who you need in your life to help fulfill the purpose God has for you. And so that's just one of the things that I told some people a bit older than me and within my age group, where it's don't get so stuck on your standards and on what you want to see in a person that you forget that they are people. So one thing that has been highlighted this year is solitude versus isolation, taking a break versus working all the time, battling every single battle, even the unnecessary ones, versus being in the quiet place so that you know which battles to choose. That's one of the highlights of the things that I've learned this year. Whoever your partner or suitable helper will be, he will or she will respect and honor you, pushing you towards God, motivating and reminding you to take that time in solitude, not making you feel the opposite. So I was just reminded, because there are so many times where I just feel I need a break. As you can see, I'm out here, and there are times where I want to not just be out here, but in the mountains or on a beach or traveling somewhere, where it's I'm taking a break from everything. But for the current state of the world, that's not the best way to take a break. Whether you can travel or not, the best way to take a break is by staying in God's presence, disconnected from the world, and just taking time with your Father. And I was reminded here that whoever you are looking at to be the one that you will spend the rest of your life with, he or she should respect that, should honor that time that you will have with God. Not to be clingy, why do you need time alone? I'm here. That's not the idea here. Sure, you're both together, so you gotta spend time together. But we should always remember that because God is in the center of the relationship, or should be in the center of a relationship, that you should spend time with him. I'm gonna list down the different names: a partner, a friend, a soulmate, a suitable helper for you. When he or she just respects your time and honors and pushes you towards that, like, okay, you need your time with God, and not hinders you from that, because that's how you grow in your relationship, when you grow with the one who gave you that relationship, who gave you each other. In terms of purpose, we can't just say that we want to be in this relationship because it's different. And when I was talking to one of the girls, I was like, how sure are you that this different thing is already the one for you? One thing I've also learned this year is about the relative things, such as success, living life to the fullest, and now the difference in a relationship. It's relative, because what could be different to me, what could be success to me, what could be living life to the fullest for me is going to be different for you. But when you live it with purpose, that's preordained, it's predestined, it was already written down by God, and it's only up to you whether you're going to step into it or not. And so I was thinking about this in relationships. We can't just say that it's just different. Like, it's good that it's different from everything else that you've been through, but it can't just be different. It has to be purposed into God's purpose. Everything you do, from the friendship stage to the courting stage to the married stage to the marriage life, it all has to be with purpose. It can't just be based on fleeting emotions or overthinking thoughts, like, it has to be purposed in God. His word will guide you, his spirit will empower you. And so, last point is pursuit. So here I wrote down principles versus norms. If you were to pursue someone, for the guys out there, not the girls, the guys. I know that there are cultural differences, and that in this time, you only live once, so just tell them what you feel. We are God's princesses. We're meant to be treasured and valued and chased after, because God paid such a big price for us. Not just for girls, but for guys as well. But as girls, we're meant to be protected and treasured, so don't give that up to chase after what you're feeling. Wait for God to lead you there. Anyway, so there are principles and norms. If you were to pursue something, you have to make sure that you are doing it within the right principles and not just chasing after it because it's the normal thing to do, it's the common thing to do. Like, make sure that when you are in pursuit of someone especially, it is because of the principles that you believe are right and not just because everyone is doing it. Okay? So basically here, the principles are the standards of God and the heart of God. Like, if you read through the Bible, there are going to be verses that just speak out to you on God's heart for his people, on God's love. And so if you're reading through 1 Corinthians 13, they say that you should fill out love with the name of the person that you're with or with yourself. And then it would show you how much you need to work on in terms of growing in the love that God has demonstrated for us. And so those are the kinds of principles that you should follow, the characteristics of Jesus that he walked on this earth, the characteristics of God that he shows through us through his perfect love, his image. We are created in God's image, and so we have to live that out. We can't just be entitled, made in the image of God. We have to be living out a life that is made in the image of God, And so, in terms of pursuit, to the guys out there, make sure that you are living it out and acting it out within the principles of God, within his word, within his leading. It is not just based on your emotions because she's amazing, because she's talented or anything, but you're doing it because God has directed you along this process for it. So the girls out there, the principles that we should be following are to be Proverbs 31 women, to make sure that as a temple of Christ, for both the guys and the girls, we have to protect what God has given us. That includes our body, physically, and that includes our minds and our heart and our spirit. What I tell my girls and what I tell people a lot and my girls is that grow on your own Like grow stronger, grow spiritually, grow physically, emotionally, mentally, so that when you're with your future partner, soulmate, lifelong, suitable helper, you can grow better together. Don't let him or her grow on their own and you're just like, I'm waiting for you. Like, grow now, so that as you continue to grow, you will mature and God will work on your heart and your mind and your spirit so that you will both be ready for the time of your relationship to start. Don't disconnect yourself from everybody else and then just not allow yourself to grow. Like, you have to grow. And that includes being in solitude and doing your devotional time, spending time with God. And so, yeah, I think that's it for this video. And always remember to stay safe, keep praying, and God bless.